let me ask you this, right? In regards to manufacturing, an influencer, because there's a lot of influencers who watch this, right? Yeah, they look at the price difference of like, okay, 15, 20% better profit margin from China. But then it takes, 3 months to get here, right?
Yep.
Especially with the problems we're having with shipping, right?
Yep.
And maybe even like, is there going to be an embargo one day? Is there going to be potentially...
Or it's just going to sit in the port because you can't even get it in.
You can't even get it in, and then especially what we had with COVID, that did not help anything, right? Like everything got shipped online. And I was experiencing this, like everything was e-commerce, everything was being sold online. But then you know what happened? Oh, we can't get stuff manufactured quick enough. Oh, shit. Like, so we have all this demand, not enough supply, not enough happening. It's like, fuck, right?
Yep.
And so that's, I think, what people open their eyes, like, we need manufacturing in the U.S.
Absolutely.
We have to.
Yep.
We're so reliant on these other countries that if we don't start producing more manufacturing here, we're going to be in trouble, right? Yep. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the question is always this, is like, how do you compete with that pricing?
You bet.
I mean, I would say, number one, okay, well, there's taxes, involved with, overseas, but then there's also, like, shipping costs are insane. Because, the product might be a better margin, but shipping costs from overseas is nuts.
Yep.
Obviously, if you develop a good relationship, you can work things out. But for you, I'm sure you've got that question a lot, right?
Absolutely.
So how does the U.S. compete in pricing against somewhere like China or Pakistan, and let's be honest, where they pay their people a lot less.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking basically sweatshops.
Yep, absolutely.
So that allows them to lower the price. As opposed to the U.S., we have standards of what we pay people, right? So how do you compete with that?
I think it's twofold. I think first is the consumer education piece, right? Because typically, and I think we've seen this socially in America, right? And take politics out of it. I think most people want to know that their product is coming from somewhere where it's not a sweatshop, where it's decent working conditions at a minimum. And so as the consumer gets more educated, I believe that will help bring things back domestically. Because when you realize, really I won't go as far as say grotesque, but really borderline on that these groups in China and in Taiwan.
Oh, there's no question.
It's rough, right? And it's not good living circumstances for those individuals. So as people educate themselves on that, I think that will drive more domestic. Number two,
maybe
and this
is moral thing.
Absolutely, But I think to answer your question more direct on the pricing component, right? Really the only way we can drive price down, in my opinion, domestically is to figure out, okay, we've got to have better buying power, which means if you choose a segment and brought 50% of the manufacturing back domestically from China, that's going to give us better buying power, whether it's at the company level or a government level, to drive those prices down. That's how you start to compete, because we are, I would say probably across the board, always more expensive than a Chinese product, right? But the way you compete with that and the way my customers compete with that right now is, okay, well, again, how much throughput can we get in the time it takes us to get product from China, manufactured, shipped, and delivered? Can we push product quicker by having it domestic and doing a more on-demand style, right? On-demand, I think, is... for a lot of reasons, but I think on demand is really the future of most product. Now, things like your toilet papers and your commodities, you're going to you forecast that out for eternity because it's always going to be a need. But for everything else, it's not a commodity. I think there's opportunity for on demand because your customer base is always changing. The amount of money they're willing to spend on a product will fluctuate, right? I mean, some products get really hot, people buy it no matter what it costs, and then it starts to sink and they spend less. And so I think that as we bring that into the mindset of, okay, well, how long am I actually having products sit? Because that has a true cost, right? Any warehouse, right? You've got a beautiful facility here. Every square foot costs you X amount, whether you bought it outright or whether you're leasing it. And so there's true cost. So having products sit is costly. And so when you educate the actual business on, hey, this is actually costing you almost as much as if you would just manufacture it here, have a shorter sell cycle and get product moving through. Those are the conversations we have of how do we compete with China? Because if you go just bottom line to bottom line of just the product cost, I don't know if it's attainable in the world we live in right now. But it's giving them that entire picture, saying, okay, what's your true cost of that product before it goes to the consumer's hands? That's where they start to realize, oh, okay, it's actually not that big of a delta. And then how do we get the rest of that? I think it's by education and bringing back manufacturing. And I think that has to come from some level from the government.
Really?
I think so. I think from
that's
not
a scary thing,
not
though.
Government getting involved in the sense of
Government getting
manufacturing,
out.
but government getting out of the way. Because I think that if there were reasons that entice businesses to come to the U.S., they would.
We saw more manufacturing, when the last president was in.
We did, we did, and
we saw a big push for that.
We absolutely did, and I think that you look at what countries like Ireland have done, very lucrative business opportunities there from a tech perspective. That's why Apple and Google and Facebook have done so much in Ireland. They put programs in place to entice business. We should be doing the same thing to entice both technology to come back, but also manufacturing. So again, I am not a proponent for government getting involved in the sense of oversight and rules and regulations, but I think that there should be opportunities to say, look, we are going to entice businesses to come back because every other country in the world is doing this. Yeah. There's no reason why we shouldn't be as well.
I mean, even like just like at a state level, there's states that have bigger benefits for tech companies to be housed there. I mean, look at what happened here.
Yep.
You know, Utah put a huge precedent for tech companies to be here. I think what was it that they like, you're a tech company over a certain size here, and you know, if you move your thing to Utah, you don't have to pay state income tax and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's some crazy incentives. Well, I mean, look, Facebook came out.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility. Again, a competitor, but I can appreciate a good facility. Yeah. Beautiful facility in Eagle Mountain. Google is coming out. We've got some very large incentives for tech to move out, and it's working. I think what Governor Herbert did on that side was very progressive for the state. Yeah. And I think
we have Silicon Slopes now,
absolutely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have more tech companies on the I-15 corridor than probably anywhere else in the country, with the exception of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty cool what we've done, but what comes with that is, as those opportunities continue to grow and as people start to see that, that's where a government, whether state or the overall arching for the country, can ruin it. Yeah. Right? If Governor Cox decides, hey, I'm going to start decentivizing for companies to come here, well, that's going to have a huge hit on the overall GDP for Utah. Yeah. So
no question. Is he planning on that? Or is he
I don't know.
that?
Nope. And I just use that as an example of someone that Governor Herbert did a great job of enticing, and I think Governor Cox will continue to do that. I'm not as familiar with Cox as I was with Herbert, but hopefully he keeps the good thing going, because that shows that you can entice business. And you look at California, right? For a variety of reasons, companies are leaving California for other states, like Texas is a big winner. Utah's been a big winner in the tech sector. And I think we're going to continue to see that if these state governments don't entice business to come and work with them.
I mean, so we're talking that on I guess you call that a micro level of the states, but then you see it at a bigger level of like countries, like we're competing with China. And it really is China. I can't see us competing with manufacturing in, Mexico or Pakistan. There's just no chance that they're going to be able to compete to the level like China, right? So I would say
they're completely reliant on us to sell their product.
Yeah, right.
China doesn't need us to sell their product. They could still move product, but all these smaller countries are reliant on us to use them.
Right.
Otherwise, you could crush entire countries by just cutting off the ability to use manufacturing.
Right.